Wall Street Journal has more on this saga currently overwhelming the Trump administration, with a report of theirs headlined, "In months before Trump call, Ukraine officials sweated White House pressure." On the subject of delaying that military aid, quote, "Some Ukrainian officials surmised that there may have been a technical budgetary reason for the holdup. Others thought it could be that the U.S. is halting foreign aid in general, and some thought it was a personal decision of Mr. Trump." Text messages the House Intel Committee released late last night indicate the latter was the case. In texts with the aforementioned Kurt Volker, our former point man with Ukraine, about trying to set up that meeting between Trump and the president of Ukraine, our U.S. ambassador to the EU, Gordon Sondland, a Trump donor and appointee, writes, quote, "I think POTUS really wants the deliverable," noting that a meeting without some sort of concession from Ukraine would be unlikely. That meeting did not take place. The acting U.S. ambassador to Ukraine, Bill Taylor, career diplomat, raised his concerns about that to Sondland. He questioned the reasons for the holdup in the aid, asking Sondland in a text, quote, "Are we now saying that security assistance and White House meeting are conditioned on investigations?" For more, we welcome to the broadcast P.J. Crowley. He's a veteran of the State Department, serving as Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs and spokesman there under then Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. Also happens to be the author of Red Line, American Foreign Policy in a Time of Fractured Politics and Failing State. Mr. Crowley, thank you ever so much for coming on. You know the phrase, if you see something, say something. Had you been on that trip, would you have said something?
Of course. I mean, I think what we have here is among other things, a process failure. You alluded to process in your question to Peter at the beginning of the show. You know, national security policy depends on a reliable process where a president is presented with options that have potential benefits and pitfalls. In this particular case, you have, what surprised me about the text most of all is that this is not a whimsical comment by the president on a call with the president of Ukraine. This was, in fact, the White House policy, that would try to leverage military aid to Ukraine in return for a political favor. And there were plenty of meetings leading up to the call, and there was plenty of action in the aftermath to try to get what the president wanted.
I don't mean for this question to sound trite, but how does it feel to you to see all this, an unsavory side of a place you proudly worked in for a long time, aired in public in this way?
Well, I mean, if you want to see the glass as half full, then you're looking at people like Bill Taylor, Marie Yovanovitch, who were trying to serve the national interest. And if you see the glass as potentially entirely empty, you're seeing a president who, every president wants to get reelected, but presidents normally get reelected by advancing the national interest. In this case, Mr. Trump has turned, this upside down, and he's converted foreign policy in the service of his reelection campaign. That's very distressing, and I think we're going to see, as you indicated, more voices expressing their concerns about this.
Secretary Pompeo has accused the Democrats of bullying his people. Do you think that is masking a deep down fear that his people, and in this case meaning a lot of career folks, who are loyal to the United States and not any current State Department or president, are going to go before Congress and tell the truth?
Well, I think this is the height of hypocrisy. I mean, on the one hand, you say Pompeo says, well, I won't let the Congress bully, my people. On the other hand, we now know he was on the call, where the president of the United States trashes his own ambassador, to the president of Ukraine, and evidently the president or the Secretary of State, offered no objection. Brian, a year ago, there was an op-ed in the New York Times, where a White House insider was saying, there are adults in the room who are trying to create boundaries into how far the president can stray. A year later, I think what we're seeing is that there are no adults in the room, and the fact that a potentially illegal activity can become the policy of the United States of America through some sort of process, I think just tells us how not only has the process broken down, but now the President of the United States cannot differentiate the national interest from his personal interest.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.